Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this free live session brought to you by TalentSprint. We all know why we're here. SSC CGL examination. Well, if there are some more of you out there who haven't yet applied for this exam, you're in luck. The last date is yet to come, which is 2 days from now. This Friday is the last date for you to complete your online application for this exam. Now, if you're asking, I still have some doubts on the eligibility criteria. I'm not too sure about the online application process. Well, again, you're in luck because I've made a video on how to apply for this exam. So all you need to do is just type how to apply for SSC CGL exam and you will get access to the video where I've explained a step-by-step procedure of how to apply for this exam. So if you haven't done that yet, please do so. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Now, last week we had the quant session, right? We spent some time understanding the quantitative section for the tier 1 of this exam. Now, last week Rohit was saying that we have about 2 months to prepare, and I don't know how time flew. And now if you look, we're in the mid of June and we have only 1.5 months left. So time is not going to wait for you. So you just have to decide how you're going to use the time smartly and wisely and gear up for this examination, right? Now, talking about time, another thing that we are also aware of is we don't have that extra 15 minutes that we had last year, right? So all the 4 sections, 25 questions, 50 marks each, has to be completed in 60 minutes, just 1 hour's time. So obviously, in this session, we're going to take time and focus on 25 questions, 50 marks for the English comprehension section, right? Before that, there were some things that were told to you as tips and tricks, and we'll continue to do that, right? There's reasoning section also to be covered, apart from quant, which we did last week. So some of you can probably share how's been your preparation. Have you been able to kind of have some smart strategic plan? Are you following any specific strategy? Maybe you can share it. Let me just see who's here with us this evening. Hi Vaishnavi, I'm good. So some familiar names. Reshiv is here, Anupama, Sai, Holy, Jishnu, Rajesh, Narayan, okay, Anupama, Deepika, Shiv Prakash, Arjun. Okay, so I'm doing good, Arjun. Hopefully all of you also are doing well, staying focused and ensuring what to prepare for. Now, tier 2 is, I won't say it's complicated, it's just that a lot more questions, right? 25 questions in tier 1. In tier 2, it's 100 questions, 200 marks. So, adding in a little bit more grammar questions in tier 2, active, passive voice, direct, indirect speech. I'm sure we'll spend some time when tier 2 comes into the picture, but right now let's just focus on tier 1 because we need to clear this, right? We need to qualify for this to move to the next phase. So for tier 1, 25 questions, English comprehension section. Pretty much for the past few years, the question types haven't changed. It's the same, right? And you must be aware of it by now. So what we do in this session is we look at how we can allot time for each question type. And while we go through some of the questions, we're going to fall back on, obviously, a question paper from previous year based on memory. We look at some question types, and I'm going to tell you what you need to watch out for when it comes to specific question types, right? Before we get started with that, let's quickly, mentally kind of recollect the question types. So we know we have synonyms, antonyms. Vocabulary, in fact, plays a very critical role, right, when it comes to SSC, because when I say vocabulary, most of the questions, if there are 6 or 7 question types, at least 4 out of that is based on vocabulary. When I say vocabulary, I'm talking about the broader category. So it will have one-word substitutions, idioms and phrases, synonyms, antonyms, spellings, all of that come under vocabulary. So in this vocabulary part, there are some question types where you either know the answer or you don't know the answer, right? You can't really waste time unless you are familiar with certain concepts, like root words and prefixes, suffixes, meaning that might help in one-word substitutions and even synonyms and antonyms, right? But if you're not, then you'll have to figure out a way to move past that. And again, we have fill in the blanks. We have spot the error as usual. That is a standard question. Apart from this, we'll definitely have reading comprehension, short passages with 5 questions. Now, the best part about SSC is, when it comes to reading comprehension section, is I think mostly we have a tendency to skip reading comprehension, right? So this is one exam where you don't even have to think about doing that, because it's pretty easy. 200 word count, and the questions will have answers directly linked to the passage, right? You don't have to break your head, and because it's a short passage, ideally, if you ask me, the entire reading comprehension section, not reading comprehension, entire English section, you should aim to complete within less than 10 minutes. And you can do that actually. We'll see how we can do that. Some more people joined, Gaurav, Samira. Okay, some of you are having trouble. Okay, Narayan seems to be very annoyed with some login issues. Maybe support can help out there. Yes, it does, Jishnu, answering your question. If you go through the notification, it clearly gives all that information that you need. Okay, so who else joined? So I have Arjun, Samira, Naga, Siddharam, and Narayan, who is pretty frustrated. Okay, hopefully Narayan, your issue will be resolved. The rest of you, I think, how to do fast, Prem Chand. Yes, how to do fast. If you are very confident with the rules, and if you're familiar with the concepts, yes, you can do really fast, right? We look at it. We're going to take a look at some question types, and then you will get a better idea of how to approach these sort of question types. And in the process, you will also kind of learn some concepts maybe, which you were not familiar with earlier. Yeah. Any other questions? Anything else that you guys have doubts with? Please feel free to put it down in the chat box, comment box. Right. In case I miss out, I will respond to it when towards the end of the session. Premchand, for reading comprehension, like I said, it's going to be for 200 words, 200 to 250 words. So you can easily finish reading the passage well within a minute, and in the next 1 minute, you can answer the 5 questions. Like I said, because it's not going to be very difficult questions. The answers will be directly taken from the passage, right? So when you're paying attention to the passage, and it's not going to be at a complex, complicated level like that of SBI PO means. Yeah, so keep that in mind. Yes, it is enough. I'm saying you should aim to finish or complete that within a minute. Now I'm giving you a general time frame in which you should work to complete the English comprehension section. However, it comes with practice, right? And unless you are confident about the concepts and the strategies, and you're familiar with how to apply them, it's not going to look good. Yes, Rajesh, it is a good book, no doubt about it. Vocabulary building can happen in so many ways. Yes, there are a lot of books out there in the market which you can buy and go through. Hi Priya and Hannah. However, I would suggest that you start reading in general, right? To expand on your vocabulary. Okay, the news has spread, is it? Yes, yes. But I'm good now, Vaishnavi. Thanks for asking. Yes, Prem. I'm just going to take up a couple of questions before we get started with the session, right? And then we get going. So Prem's asking, this is an age-old question that comes with reading comprehension. Should I read the questions first or should I read the passage first? Like I said, always when you read the questions first, when you're reading the passage, you can look for what you need, right? For some of them it works, for some of them it may not work. So, yes, of course, DJ, I agree with you, right? So, English comprehension section as such, the difficulty level is not going to be really, high. You don't have to worry about it. However, still, some of us are not very fluent in English. Some of us have issues with our basic grammar, right? We're not very strong in grammar concepts, and we're not very familiar with a lot of idioms or phrases or one-word substitutions for that matter. So for question types like this, where you either know the answer or you don't know the answer, what I would suggest is fall back on previous year's question papers. There's a tendency for questions to be repeated as well. I mean, don't go purely by that sense. However, it is good practice for you to fall back on previous year's question papers, and you can probably collate the list of idioms and phrases, one-word substitutions, spellings. Also, you can take a look at it. One of the words that keep repeating is serendipity in terms of spellings. I've seen that word repeat for a couple of question papers. So yes, and when it comes to spot the error, few concepts that I want you to be familiar with is tenses, subject-verb agreement. If time permits, I'll probably jot it down for you so you can make a note of it. But tenses, subject-verb agreement, pronouns, degree of comparisons, what else? Double negatives, double superlatives, double comparatives, right? Superfluous words, like there are unnecessary words in the sentence which need not be there, right? So these are all the concepts or that you need to be familiar with when it comes to spot the error. Yeah. So like I said, Chandra has, what you can do is, instead of relying on any book, just rely on previous year's question papers itself. That is a good resource. To answer Jishnu's question is how can we resolve our grammatic level? Grammar, there are a lot of rules, right? You just need to know them. Just like in quant, you have some equations, you have some methods, right, which you have to register no matter what. So likewise, there are certain rules that you need to be familiar with. So if you're familiar with, for example, in subject-verb agreement itself, there are some 20-odd rules. I'm sure there's more than that. But I'm saying, so if you get familiar with the basic rules, like, no sooner will be followed by then, hardly will be followed by when. So there are a lot of rules like this, right? So be familiar with as many rules as possible. So Hannah Wesley, yes, we will look at some tricks, but like I said, predominantly most of your questions are, hey, how to improve vocabulary, how to master grammatical concepts. Grammatical concepts, you can't, there is no shortcut method to it. Unfortunately, you have to be familiar with whatever the rules are. I don't know if you can spot some rules. I had taken at least 2 or 3 sessions on certain rules that you need to be familiar with when it comes to spotting the error or finding the error. So if you can find that, please do so, right? But let's get started. Let's look at a couple of questions. So Mayan Singh says, can you give us an idea of which questions to target first? Well, it will definitely differ person to person, Mayank, because ideally we're looking at, for each person, the strength is different, right? For some of you, spotting the error probably is not that much of a challenge. For some of you, fill in the blanks or idioms and phrases is easier, right? So there is no, what do I say, sequence in which you need to go about it. The idea is for you to finish whatever you're comfortable with first, whatever you think you're really good at. By now you should know. If not, at least in the next 1 month, make sure you spend some time practicing. See, it's only 25 questions, right, for each section. Maybe you can do a paper every day, right? Just take some time, do it like a test. Take a test every day. I keep saying this, right? A test a day draws you closer to your dream pay, right? In this case, your dream job. So take a test every day and you'll find out what your strengths are, which topics you're really good at, which topics you're really bad at. And accordingly, you can take time. So during the examination, the ideal thing for you to do is answer as many questions as possible, but at the same time, know which question you shouldn't spend too much time on, right? You need to move on. So there are certain questions that you can skip. There are certain questions that you should not skip or maximize your opportunity on scoring marks from those topics, right? So the questions that you obviously should skip is the ones that you're taking a lot of time on, right? Don't waste a lot of time because you don't have time. Okay, so I think we should look at some questions, have an idea, and then from there we'll go. If there are any more questions, I'll take it up towards the end of the session. Yeah, would that be fine? So mine, to answer your question specifically, there is no specific sequence. Yeah. Okay. So we'll take a look at a couple of questions. So this one, obviously, when you see, it's a synonym. One of the things, I want you to watch out for is just pay attention to the directions itself. Sometimes we miss out on this, right? Here they're asking for a synonym. And what happens is the next question might be an antonym, but we are thinking still synonym on synonym mode. So we end up choosing the wrong answer option, even though we know what the answer is, right? So avoid things like that. So pay attention to the direction, register in your mind that, hey, this is a synonym. And like I said, it's not going to be very difficult for you to figure out. Exaggerate is not a very difficult word. A lot of us know this, right? It's not a difficult word, but still I'm having different answers. I'm a little surprised. Vaishnavi has said option 1. Rakesh is saying option 2. I thought this was a pretty easy word, but I'm just surprised that I have 2 different answers. Anybody else wants to respond? To exaggerate, I'm sure you've heard people use this word, right? It's not a complicated word at all. If I say you're exaggerating, which means you're overstating something, right? You're magnifying it beyond what the truth is. So obviously, we're looking at a synonym. You're not imagining something, you're just saying something in a magnified manner. So obviously, the answer is option 1. So I think for some of you have given me another option. You're just not familiar with this word, right? But it's not a difficult word at all. On the other hand, a word like this, which is gregarious. Now, this might be a new and unfamiliar word, right? This could be a new and unfamiliar word, gregarious. I don't know this word. I haven't heard people use this word. I haven't come across this word. Now, for a word like this, again, pay attention to the directions. The first one was a synonym, but this one is a word which is opposite in meaning. So they're asking for an antonym. Okay. Now, like I said, either you know the meaning or you don't know the meaning, right? Synonyms, antonyms, one-word substitutions, idioms, phrases. This is the case. However, I just want to take a minute and explain to you a concept. Yes, this concept is something that you will have to, take time to practice, right? I'm talking about, if you look at this suffix, right? In a word, in a given word, the part that ends, this is your suffix, R-I-O-U-S, right? We all know a suffix is one that is attached to the end of the word. So in this word, this is the suffix, RIOS, which means it's an adjective. Usually these adjectives are the ones that end with FUL, VE, IVE, RIOUS, right? AL, right? Gregarious, it's describing something. So I know this is an adjective, and how do I know this is my suffix? Because there are a lot of words with the same suffix. Can you think of words with the same suffix? I'm just taking a minute to explain this because this is an unfamiliar new word, right? Okay, Samira, what you can do is in the bottom right corner of your video, go to settings and change your resolution. Put it in HD. Change it to HD, you should be able to see it clearly. So can you give me words with that end with RIOUS? I'll give you some examples. You can probably add to it. Curious, mysterious. Any other words that you guys can think of? Victorious. No? Hilarious. Okay. So anyway, I know this is, so if I take off the suffix, I have this remaining part. Usually, if you remove the prefix and suffix, the remaining part is your root. Yeah, precarious, notorious. Thank you, Mayank and Nanda. Right? So, this root, just if you didn't know, it has a Latin origin to it. The root word has a Latin origin. The Latin word is GREX. Okay? And it comes from another form. GREGIS. So this is come from this Latin root. And the meaning of this Latin root means flock. Now, flock means it's usually a group, right? So when you say somebody is gregarious, what you're trying to say is this person likes to mingle with people. They're always seen in a group. So if you call somebody, hey, this person is a gregarious person, which means this person, you will not see this person sitting alone by himself or herself. They will always be found in groups because they like to socialize. Okay? So if you are familiar with this root, Greg, knowing that this is from a Latin root and meaning is flock, and we're talking about somebody who likes to socialize, obviously the antonym is from the given options is one, unsociable. Right? Now this is a long way to do it, but I'm making you aware of this is a concept as well that you can apply. For that, you'll have to be familiar with as many root words as possible, as many prefixes, suffixes, meanings as possible, right? But like I said, if in the exam you have no clue about it, please move on. Don't waste a lot of time trying to break your head, right? But I am telling you, this is also an option in which you can figure out the answer. So because you have time, if you're saying, hey, synonyms and antonyms is a challenging question type for me. I don't know a lot of words. My vocabulary is very poor. Right? This is probably one area where you can focus and expand your knowledge on as many root words as possible. Right? Group likes to socialize, all of that. So let's move on. So just before we wrap up this, synonyms and antonyms, one thing that you need to watch out for is to look out for the directions. Make sure it's asking you for a synonym, make sure it's asking you for an antonym, and accordingly choose the answer. What's this? Our favorite, spot the error. So we know this, I'm not going to read the directions. Let's just get to the question. Considering the gravity of the problems, an early reply has expected. So another thing, when it comes to spot the error in SSC, I've noticed they are pretty simple sentences. It's not long, complicated sentences with a lot of new and unfamiliar words at all. So spot the error, like I said, I was stating it earlier. Let me just jot it down. What concepts you need to be familiar with is errors pertaining to tense, errors pertaining to subject-verb agreement, errors pertaining to degree of comparison, errors pertaining to pronouns, errors pertaining to, there'll be double negatives, right? Double comparatives, likewise, double superlatives. When I say double comparatives, I'm talking about more and better, right? Both can't come together. That's what I'm saying, right? So for this question, a lot of you have come back and you're giving me, some of you are saying option 2, some of you are saying option 3. Anybody else wants to say something else? So I'll give you a couple of more seconds. Okay, let's look at it. So considering the gravity of the problems, an early reply. So we're talking about a current situation, right? The simple present tense is what is needed in the context. So this has and have you'll use only when it comes in a perfect tense situation, right? So Nanda, you're right. All you need to do is, the error is in part 3. As soon as you read it, you know something is funny in part 3. The best part is we don't have to break our heads on what is the answer, but for our information or knowledge sake, all you need to do is considering the gravity problem, an early reply is. You just change as, has to, is. That's it. A simple present tense is what is required in the context, right? Another thing I forgot to mention, I'll just mention it here, superfluous words, repetitive words, right? Not needed in the context. So those of you who said 2, what do you feel is incorrect in part 2, considering the gravity of the problems? The gravity of the problems meaning the intensity of it, the depth of the problems, right? That's what it means. And a plural noun number problems is absolutely fine. So there's nothing wrong in part 2. I'm just trying to figure out, those of you who came back and said part 2, Rakesh, Priya, Nishludani, what exactly made you say that? And even Lakshmi has said it. What do you find is wrong in part 2? Yeah, there's nothing wrong in part 2, okay? Considering the gravity of the problems, an early reply is expected. Right? It's an error pertaining to tense. Let's move on. So hopefully you made a note of this. This is just a surface level. There are more errors that you can be familiar with, concepts like maybe prepositions, conjunctions, right? Word class, do I need? Do I need a verb form, noun form, adjective form, adverb form, things like that. Okay. Now Vikas and those of you who are saying that has to be changed to have, see this has and have you'll use only in a perfect tense situation where the action happened sometime in the past and it is continuing up till now. So because the general tense is simple, I mean, it's in the present tense, you don't need the perfect tense. We're not talking about Yeah. So you don't have to change this. Has expected is incorrect grammatically, right? If I only take this part alone, I have to rephrase it saying an early reply has been expected. And because it's a singular subject, definitely you don't have to replace has with have. Right? Have is for plural. Has is for singular. So even if that's the case, it is incorrect to change has to have. But either ways, the right answer is you change has to is. Okay, moving forward. The Statesman has the larger circulation of all English dailies. So your clue, obviously, I'll give you 10 seconds, keeping in mind that we have to finish the entire English comprehension section within 10 minutes, right? Spot the error now, you can't be spending more than 10-15 seconds. Nanda, கொஞ்சம் சீக்கிரம் proceed பண்ணணும். Sure. I think what happens is, I'm looking at the comments and I want to make sure everybody is clear on where they've understood. Yeah, that also makes sense actually, Sunil. Considering the gravity of the problem, an early reply was expected from them. Yeah. It sounds grammatical. Okay, so this one, a lot of you have come back and said part 3. Okay. Some of you are saying 2. So let's look at it. The Statesman has the largest circulation of all English dailies. So here, your clue phrase is, of all the English dailies, right? That's your clue phrase, which means you are signaling out one particular circulation. One person who has the, exactly, right? So those of you who are saying part 3, there's nothing wrong in part 3. Part 3 is your clue phrase, in fact. It's telling of all the English dailies, the Statesman has the largest one. So obviously this is a degree of comparison. Yes, exactly. So in part 1, the definite article there is also a clue. Good, Nanda. So obviously I need not the comparative degree here, I need the superlative degree, largest, right? It's degree of comparison error. So see, what I'm trying to say is a simple concept like this, if you don't pay attention, you will overlook it and get marked incorrectly. You don't want to do that. So the only way you can ensure that you don't get marked incorrectly in spot the error is to be aware of the concepts that I just listed out earlier, right? So practice as much as you can. So the error is in part 2. So those who said part 2, correct, right? It's a degree of comparison error. You just change largest. The Statesman has the largest circulation than all English dailies. So Arjun, all you need to do is add the after has and largest circulation than all the English dailies. Yeah. Let's move on. I'm very anxious to know how are you and mother are doing. Okay. So as soon as you read this sentence again, you know something is funny. Something is not right. Which part do you think is not right? Right, Sanjeev and Vikas has said part 2. What about the rest of you? Rajesh says 2, Satish says 2, okay. So far I have only one part, that's correct. Sanjeev, yes. What is the superfluous part here? Can you point that out quickly for the benefit of everybody? Madhav is the only one who's come back and said, hey, I think it's part 3. The rest of you are sticking to part 2. So if you notice in the sentence, the very obvious okay, so Prashanta comes back and says, I have a completely different view. I'm saying part 1 is where the error is. So he says, it's not very anxious, it should be only anxious. Okay, fine. Now, see, very is just an intensifier, right? It's intensifying the feeling, the adjective, anxious. So I'm very anxious is pretty standard, correct grammatical phrase. So there's nothing wrong in that part 1 at all. I'm very anxious. It's like saying I'm very happy or I'm very sad or I'm very delighted, right? You're just adding, very is just intensifying the adjective anxious. That's it. I'm very anxious to do what? To know how. So if you look at it, R and R are repeated, right? Which R, if I take out, will make more sense? This is the superfluous word, right? Why do I need 2 R's in both the... So if I remove, which one if I remove will make more sense? Now, to answer Sai's question, Sai says, hey, I think we should replace this third part R to is. Why? Because we're talking about 2 subjects here, right? You is subject 1 and mother is subject 2. So 2 subjects makes it a plural subject. So plural subject, plural verb R is fine, right? So the only thing that I can quickly do is delete this R here. Then the sentence still makes grammatical sense. Superfluous means, Satish, something that is repetitive. It's redundant in meaning. I don't need the same word again because I already have that word giving me the meaning that I need to complete the sentence. So I'm very anxious to know how you and mother are doing. That's it. Correct, Samira. Right? So the error is in part 2. I don't need this R, which is unnecessary there. Right? I'll remove it. It still completes the meaning of the sentence. Right? So superfluous means unnecessary, not needed, repetitive, redundant. So these are some errors that you can look out for. Right? So spot the errors, like I said. Go over those concepts that I just listed down. There are lots more. In fact, we have about 23 to 26 errors listed out. Right? So it's good to be familiar with as many error types as possible because you don't know what sort of error will come. But if you are familiar and you practice enough, then when you look at the question, you'll know, okay, this is where the error is. You don't have to explain all this in the exam, thankfully. Right? You don't have to explain all this, but you just have to figure out, okay, this is the part that has the error. That's all we need from you in the exam. Okay, we're going to move forward. We're going to look at another question type. Fill in the blanks. Right? We had single blanks. Usually it is single blanks, but you could be surprised with a double blank as well. But either way, the strategy is still the same. Right? Let's look at it. Everything dash carefully check. Now, as soon as you, we look at sentence improvement as also Nanda. I have that listed down. But can we move a little faster because we have lots to cover. So can somebody quickly point out in this question, what's the clue word? I have some answers coming, great. Can somebody quickly point out what's the clue word in this question? What's the key word which will help me identify the right answer? Okay, Most of you have said one. Yes, Prince, thank you. And Arjun, thank you, right? Your clue word is everything. Right? So what is this everything? It's a singular, indefinite pronoun, right? It's not specifying. So think of singular indefinite pronouns. Everybody, somebody, nobody, anyone, someone, no one. Anything, something, right? All these take up singular verb only, which means there is no room for plural. Have and are out immediately, right? So they always take up singular verb only. So everything is yes, but being is not in the right form, right? It should be is being. Then yeah, I will consider it. So our answer is 1. So there is no, you shouldn't even think. So this pronouns is a concept that you're learning for spot the error, but it's still helping you in fill in the blanks as well, right? So that's the beauty of English. If you spend time on one particular question type, it will help you in multiple question types, right? See, for example, idioms and phrases, knowledge on idioms and phrases can also help you in sentence improvement. We'll take a look at that in some time. So everything has been carefully checked. Clear? So this concept, this is the rule that you need to be familiar with. Singular indefinite pronouns always take a singular verb. Let's move on. I've dashed finished painting the house. Another thing that you can, I keep saying, right, one of the strategies that you can apply for fill in the blanks is substitution method. What is this substitution method? You come up with your own word in the blank. And then we look at the options and see which one is the closest in meaning to your word. So in this question, forget the options. Can you think of a word that you will put here? Yeah, I'm getting the answers. Can you tell me a word that I can fit here? Apart from the given options, can you give me another word that I can fit in this blank? It's I have is what is contracted to I, right? Yeah, I've just finished. Okay, good. Nearly finished. Yes, good, right? So if I look at the options that give me that meaning is almost, nearly, right? So this is another way in which you can also do it. Substitute the word with your own blank. Now this was an easy one, so all of you got it right, because the other options were really bad, right? About, nearing, towards, not making any grammatical or logical sense if I fit it in the context. But if you have a couple of other very closely related options, and if you're in doubt to choose between two, then this substitution method will help. Okay. Let's move on. Ajit is like, it is like Greek and Latin for me. It is going over my head. That's a good depiction of stating that. She dash made him angry. Okay. So my options are, obviously we're talking about a singular subject, so it has to be singular verb. So I can quickly eliminate 1 and 3. It has have. So do I choose has certainly or has absolutely? So here I just need to figure out, I need to know the difference between certainly and absolutely. This will help me. figure out the answer, right? Sanjeev, it cannot be option 3, right? Because it has have. She dash made him angry, right? So the question is, hey, so then what's the difference between certainly and absolutely? That's the question, right? Because people use it sometimes even interchangeably. The only way we can figure this out is to quickly, look at some example sentences. Where will we use certainly? I'm just going to jot down some example sentences, and then that will probably help us look at what is required in the given context, right? You can come up with your own phrases as well. I'm just going to write down a couple of sentences for us to clearly understand the difference between certainly and absolutely. This is certainly not my work or writing. He certainly sings very well. I'll certainly be there, right? When somebody says, can I expect you there? I'll certainly be there. Right? Let's look at absolutely. It makes absolutely no difference or no sense. I have looked absolutely everywhere for it. Whatever I was searching for. What else? It's worrying, isn't it? And then in response, absolutely. Okay, so if you look at these two example sentences, right? Certainly, when you use certainly, when there is no doubt about something, right? You want to emphasize something, or you want to show there's no doubt. Okay, and when you use absolutely, you use absolutely when you are, what can I say? When you're saying, hey, there's no exception to this. Or if you're saying, you're expressing complete agreement, right? You're completely agreeing with something. So having looked at these differences, right? Completely, absolutely means here, she, without a doubt, has made this person angry. She has certainly made this angry. Is more? Yeah. So for this particular context, option 2 is our answer. You're emphasizing and you're expressing that there is no doubt that this person has made this other person angry. Got it? Just to give you an idea, in case you are confused. Yeah, let's move on. Okay, so that was fill in the blanks. I don't know if I missed out anything. Yeah, that was it. Okay. So let's look at this. This is the sentence improvement part, right? A lot of you were asking. I think Nanda was asking. Let's look at it quickly. The chairman's harsh words like insult to injury to the embarrassed speaker. If you look at this, our highlighted word is like. Options are added, evoked, invoked, no improvement. Now this is where I'm going to give you a tip saying it's an idiom. Can you identify the idiom? Which option if I add to the word in and around it? So one of the things that you obviously need to do is pay attention to words surrounding the highlighted word, right? That will help us form or identify idiomatic phrases. So can you quickly identify what the idiom is? Anybody? I'll give you less than 10 seconds. Okay. I'm waiting for people to identify the idiom, the phrase. I'm having 2, 3. Okay. Yes, insult to injury, correct. But which one of these options, if I substitute like with, will give me the complete idiomatic phrase is my question. Okay. Since nobody has been able to identify that, quickly letting you know that the answer option is actually 1 and not 2 or 3. Added, yes, Kriti. Added insult to injury. That's your idiomatic phrase. Right? Add insult to injury means what? It's like saying, you might have heard the other expression, salt to the wound. Already I'm hurt, and then you're adding salt on top of that, making the condition even more worse, right? So if you add insult to injury, it means you're acting in a way that is making an already bad situation worse, right? Let me give you a context. So if I say I was already late for work, okay, and to add insult to injury, I spilled coffee. I spilled coffee all over myself, right? So you're making a bad situation worse. Adding fuel to fire, right? There are various, yeah? Add insult to injury. Got it? Make a bad situation worse. Yeah? This looks like K. Let me redo that. Okay. Got it? So, idioms help in identifying the right answer for sentence improvement questions. Let's look at this one. He is in of sorts today. Options. The highlighted phrase, word is in. Our options are out, on, outside. Are you able to identify the? This is also a idiom. This is also an idiom. Yeah, are you able to identify the idiom out of this? Sorry, somebody asked her. Samira saying meaning of evoked and invoked. In fact, they are synonyms, Samira. Invoke and evoke means you're trying to, what do I say, bring something to your mind, right? You bring to mind, you call to mind. Correct. So the idiom is out of sorts, Prasanta. Yeah, Satish also is correct, right? Out of sorts means? What is the meaning of out of sorts? Which means, yeah, not just slightly unwell, somebody who's not in a good mood, basically, either very irritated or very tired or just not in the right frame of mind. It can mean anything, not just not feeling well, somebody who's very irritated, somebody who's very grumpy, somebody who's not in the right frame of mind. All of this. Basically, they're just not in a normal state. how they would usually be, right? Not in the right frame of mind. And yes, unwell too. So he's out of sorts today, right? That's your phrase. If you're familiar with that, you'll pick the right answer. Option 1. Not in full swing, okay. Not in full swing actually gives another meaning altogether, right? She told to me the news. Let's move faster. She told to me the news. Told to me is our highlighted phrase, right? Said to me, told me. So basically you need to figure out the difference between say and tell here. Right? So easy way, yes, all of us know. But the easy thing for you to always remember is, recall direct speech and indirect speech here, right? That's the best thing to do. Whenever we use said or say, she said me is incorrect. Okay, she said. A lot of you are coming back and saying said me, which is incorrect. Part 1 is not the right option. She said, I'm giving you an example sentence. I don't know what you mean. What is this? Direct speech, right? And if you notice, after said, there is no direct object, right? And then I have the quotation. Usually direct speech, that's a clue, right? It's within quotation. You're directly saying what the person said, right? So indirect speech, I told her why something happened, why it had happened. So in this example sentence, if you notice, told is always followed by a direct object, right? That's all there is. So if you recollect your direct speech, indirect speech, you can figure out that it can never be she said me. A lot of us use this conversationally, which is incorrect. We're just not familiar with the rule, right? I've heard a lot of people say this also. Hey, say me what you did yesterday. Incorrect. Tell me what you did yesterday, right? Let me tell you a story. Correct. Let me say you a story. Incorrect. Because say will never follow a direct object will never follow say. That's all you need to remember. So obviously the answer is option 3. Okay. So keep this in mind. Every time you have a doubt, put these words in sentences. Come up with example sentences. Tell me the truth. Tell followed by me, the direct object. He told the customers to wait in line. He told who? Direct object, the customers. Right? Think of example sentences. Let's move on. Screen is not clear. Amit, check your resolution. Lower right hand side corner. The philanthropist bestowed a lakh to the orphanage. Obviously, this is to do with vocabulary, right? The highlighted word is bestowed. Granted, parted with, donated, no improvement. So there's a clue word in the context. Another way to look at or approach sentence improvement questions or fill in the blanks is to always identify keywords in the context, right? Can somebody quickly tell me what the keyword is in this context? Hey Prince, I actually took some 15 rules, man. I think it was for SBI PO though. I don't know if it's still there out. You can Google. So what's the clue word? Satish, Arjun, Rajesh, Prashanta, Venu, Vishnu, tell me what the clue word is in the context. How do you know it's option 3? What's the clue word? Yes, thank you. Sai, right? Orphanage. So here, the given word, right, is more of a present or a gift to honor someone. You bestow someone on you bestow something to someone means you're presenting a gift to them or you're honoring them. But that's not what the context is saying. The context is saying this is an orphanage we are referring to. So the most effective word would be not grant, but donate. You donate to an orphanage, right? That's the collocation, in fact. Verb plus noun collocation. Let me not get technical if you are not familiar with collocations and confuse you. There are better ways of solving the problem. Last one, let's close fast. We're almost there. Time's up. There are better ways of solving the problem. Now, for question types like this, if you look at the options, more or less, more than one option seems grammatically correct. So for questions like this, where the entire sentence is highlighted, the best thing to do is keep in mind that they're only asking you to improve the sentence. They're not asking you to change the meaning of the sentence, right? If that is the case, Saujanya, Rajesh, I want you to think about what I just said. Go back and look at the options and see from this. See, the best way to do it is, even without looking at the options, look at the highlighted sentence completely and tell me, if I remove one word, which word if I remove, the sentence will be grammatically correct. There are better ways of solving the problem, right? That's the given. Which word if I remove, the sentence will be absolutely fine. It will get improved. Which is that word? Can somebody tell me quickly? Yes, Sushil, right? All I have to do is get rid of this indefinite article a. What is it doing there? If I remove that, there are better ways of solving the problem. Perfect. Which option is giving me that? Satish, correct. Option 3. That's it. If you look at option 1 and 2, option 1 and 2 is changing the meaning of the sentence. My clue words are still better and solve, right? Option 1 is saying different ways. Option 2 is saying better way of looking at the problem. That's how it is misleading you, right? You still need the keywords where the meaning is not changed. Okay, that's it. Look at the given context, see what word do I remove or change, which will improve the sentence. That's it. And that's your answer, right? In this question type, option 3 is the answer. Clear? Okay. So that was the end of this session. Okay. So quickly, let's do a recap. What is that? Sorry. Way is there in 3, not ways. That could have been a typo, I'm sure. I didn't pay attention. But anyway, what you need to, there are, see, you have the plural verb, right? Are better ways of solving the problem. Ma'am, how to set resolution? We're almost towards the end of the session, but still I'll tell you. It's in the lower bottom right-hand side. So just to answer your question, Samira, there is a better way. Yes, there are better ways, right? Noun number. There is a better way. There are better ways. Noun numbers should match the thing. Yeah. Now, my only thing is, I'm glad it was a wonderful experience, Mayank. And I just want to reiterate the fact that don't lose focus, right? You have about 1.5 months. Take a test every day. Get familiar with. In this session itself, I got to know that a lot of you are not very strong in your grammar concepts, meaning you don't know the rules by heart. 1, 2 is you're not familiar with idioms and phrases. 3, your vocabulary also is not at the level, which is not a very difficult level if you ask me in SSC CGL, but still there is room for improvement. So which means you need to get into the habit of reading every day, expand your vocabulary, spend some time on vocabulary because that will have a lot more questions, right? You have spellings, idioms and phrases, synonyms, antonyms, one-word substitutions. 4 question types comes under vocabulary itself. So spend a little time on vocabulary. Yeah. Otherwise, Reiterating again, those of you who haven't applied yet, please do so. Day after tomorrow is the last day to apply. You don't want to miss out on this opportunity. First thing is make sure you're there. You're in, right? Then you clear tier 1 and then we spend some time for tier 2. Yes, Sony, I'm feeling good now, but thank you so much for actively participating and all the very best. Of course, we will see you guys in another session before the exam itself. Next week, we have reasoning taken care of, so make sure you're available sharp at 6 and continue to practice, especially take time to focus on what your challenging, question types are. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next session. By the time, hopefully, you would be more thorough with a lot more rules and concepts, and then maybe we can quickly look at, some more challenging question types. Okay, all right, guys, take care.